Hello and a big welcome back to the Resources Conservation and Recycling webinar program. My name is Mitchell Jones. I'm the Outreach Editor at Resources Conservation and Recycling. It's wonderful to have everyone with us today. Before we kick things off with Jelena, who we're very fortunate to have with us today, I'm just going to cover a few notes on the program itself, some background information. So this is the English language version of the Resources Conservation and Recycling webinar program. We also have a Chinese language version of this program. So if you're interested in that or you have Chinese language skills, be sure to check that out as well. This program normally runs every second Thursday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. We're running a little off schedule at the moment due to some public holidays in the US. And a few other bits and pieces. So in fact, we have a webinar this week, and also there will be one next week as well, but normally it's every second Thursday. So this program is scoped around the journal Resources Conservation and Recycling, and we try to run a very balanced program, meaning that all elements of the scope are equally weighted in our program. You can expect to see all aspects of the scope covered in this program. The one point that we do make is we ask our authors to consider audience accessibility. We want this program to be something that as many people as possible can take something away from. We know that we work in our specific area, but we also have lots of people working in adjacent fields who could really draw something. And the whole point is to encourage collaboration and working together. So we try to ask for reduction of field-specific terminology and jargon, and for the speakers to provide a little bit of background information, contextual information, and fundamentals of their research field before they dive into the specifics of what they actually did. You can register for this program. You must register for this program. In fact, if you want to come or join us in the Zoom environment, you can find the links to register for the Zoom environment in the Resources Conservation Recycling newsletter, which is circulated at the end of each month. You can also find those links on the social media pages. So the Resources Conservation Recycling X page, Facebook page, LinkedIn page. Yes, and you can also find it on the journal homepage. So if you visit the Elsevier journal homepage for Resources Conservation and Recycling, you will find there all of the links for the upcoming webinars and also the links for the archived webinars. All of the webinars are archived to YouTube. So you can find all the links to the YouTube webinars on the journal homepage on the About tab webinar calendar, or you can just visit the YouTube page directly, youtube.com/@RCR journal. You'll find all of the existing webinars there. You can also live stream today's webinar or any given webinar. They're all live streamed to YouTube. So if you prefer not to join us in the Zoom environment, you don't have questions to ask, you can also watch it on YouTube as you like. The final point is that we want to really run this program for our research community. This program is really only aimed at providing benefit for our research community. And that means that we need to know whether you find it useful or not. If you do find it useful, or if you don't find it useful, please be sure to leave some feedback. At the end of the program today, and at the end of every program, you will find the survey. It's just 8 questions, multiple choice questions. It won't take you more than 1 to 2 minutes to finish. We would love to hear what you hate about the program, what you wish we changed, what you love about the program, anything that you have to say, please drop it in the survey at the end of the program. Okay, so I'm going to then share my screen now for the proper formal introduction, but we're going to go from the start. So the program for today, we've just had the welcome address. I will provide a brief introduction to the journal. Then I'm going to introduce our speaker for today, Jelena. As I said earlier, we're very fortunate to have her with us today. I'm going to touch on a few housekeeping notes, webinar etiquette, and then we're going to have an approximately 20-minute presentation, followed by some question time, and then some information on the next event and closing remarks. So, a formal introduction to the journal. Hopefully you're all familiar with Resources Conservation and Recycling, an Elsevier journal. I like to say that the clue to the research interests of the journal are really in the name. We're interested in everything resources, conservation, and recycling. Specific key points in the scope: systems-wide strategies, technological, economic, institutional, and policy focus, resource management practices, conservation, recycling, and resource substitution, resource productivity improvement, restructuring of production and consumption profiles, and transformation of industry. If you have any top-notch research in those areas, be sure to send it our way. We'd be very excited to see it. Few points for today. If we could have, please have all communication in English. This is just so that we have a bridging language that we can use. We have obviously speakers from a very broad range of countries and also audience members from a broad range of countries. And although it's wonderful to have all these diverse languages, we do need to be able to understand each other. So please communicate in English if possible. There are closed captions available for your benefit, as if English is not your first language, for example, or you would like to watch the webinar without audio in the train or something like that. We have those closed captions. They're available in Zoom and also in YouTube. So feel free to use them if you would like to. Please, when we're finished, feel very free to post any questions in the Q&A. I will also have some questions of my own for Jelena. And if you would like to ask your question to Jelena directly, you want to escape this text-based paradigm that we have, and you'd love to have a chat, then feel very free to indicate that you would like to talk directly to Jelena with your microphone using the raised hand reaction, and we'll be very happy to enable your microphone so that you can speak directly to Jelena on the floor. So our speaker for today. We are very, very lucky to have Jelena KURILOVA-PALISAITIENE. As I said, I did promise to try to pronounce this correctly. We have a beautiful Lithuanian, apparently, surname there. So good to see that diversity also. From Linköping University in Sweden. She's going to be speaking to us today on 4 levels of remanufacturing maturity, a theoretical framework and practical assessment tool. So Dr. KURILOVA-PALISAITIENE leads research in remanufacturing and the industrial shift to circular manufacturing with specialization in B2C markets at Linköping University. She has developed an analytical decision support tool called Remanufacturing, Remanufacturing Readiness Level RRL, which enables remanufacturers to assess their maturity level in remanufacturing. In 2021, Remanufacturing was selected for the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences IVA 100 list as a research project focused on sustainable emergency preparedness with the potential to create value through innovation. Dr. KURILOVA-PALISAITIENE is a managing editor for the Journal of Remanufacturing, Springer Nature, and an executive board member of the Swedish Circular Economy Network, SCEN. Her research is conducted in close collaboration with industry, addresses the research gap in sustainable transformation in manufacturing, and contributes to circular manufacturing practices in Europe and internationally. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jelena. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so that you're able to share yours.
Thank you for a very great introduction of myself, and of course, for inviting to join and lead today's webinar on the topic that I probably adore the most. And I'm working in the area of remanufacturing for more than 10 years. Just a question, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Very
thank you.
nicely.
Then I will start introduction in some more details. So who is Jelena? As Michelle already mentioned, I am associate professor at Linköping University in Sweden. I also handle articles that we get in the Journal of Remanufacturing. And I recently joined the executive board of the SCEN, where we actually organize yearly twice Swedish circular economy colloquiums for mostly academics. But the reason why I'm here is that because I have developed the analytical decision tool Remanufacturing, and that was thanks to my projects back 2019 and 2021. We have a great collaboration with our industrial partner Husqvarna. Today I have additional 3 projects that I lead and work, of course, mostly focusing on the holistic transformation of manufacturing industries towards remanufacturing, but also looking at the end user consumer interest, whether these remanufacturing items are interested, if consumers are interested to use those instead of just choosing new products. And remanufacturing is one of the strategic research area in my division of environmental technology and management at Linköping University. And the department that I work hosts more than 9,000 students. So we can really see the spread of the research and impact that we do get actually back or forward to the end users of our research. So why should manufacturers adopt or work and implement remanufacturing? And this is a question that many OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, try to answer. We see the big interest from industry, but also greater demand from the government, but also the consumer side is looking for changes. And when I teach my master students, I always show this difference between linear and circular manufacturing. While I say that the targets are pretty similar, the means to achieve the targets are completely different. And this clash between the linear and circular economy or manufacturing is something that is so difficult to fix in just several years. So for linear and traditional, I would say, manufacturing, especially the one that work with lean, they focus already today on investing minimum resources in order to achieve maximum product value for the customer. And by doing that, or in order to do this, they actually focus on selling more products in one period of time. And that is typically a strategy of shortening product life, right? So that they can sell more and get more profit. While in circular manufacturing, where the responsibility for the product remains at the manufacturer side, this means that, of course, you would like to invest less resources and to achieve the highest customer value, so that provide the better product for customers. But this is not possible with the thinking that minimum product use time, because it's you who are repairing the products, it's you who are taking the product back, who making the repair activities or refurbishing or remanufacturing. Therefore, maximizing product use time is the point where they have to aim. And that is why many manufacturers and product owners start to design and think how they can improve their product for longer product life. So while I explain a little bit the difference, I can say that it's not so easy as it can be seen. It's really advanced knowledge that is hidden, and how to transition from linear to circular manufacturing. And of course, we have today, to our help as researchers, but also practitioners, a lot of circular strategies, the so-called R strategies, that help them or industries to define how to become more circular. Either they can focus on some activities that narrow the flow, or slow down or close. And among researchers, we see that the development of our strategies has evolved a lot, and it became also very difficult to follow which R corresponds and what is the meaning behind. And I'm very glad that today we are back to fewer the better. So today we have less R's, and it's less confusion between those. However, I still can admit that many manufacturers disorient themselves. They cannot choose by themselves. They need our help. Another maybe more focus for me as a researcher in remanufacturing, I really see how remanufacturing was placed low in this sequence of the R strategies. And that was the reason I became a bit of let's say, I wanted to challenge this sequence. And in a few years back, I developed the Retain Value Hill framework for circular manufacturers, meaning that when you are a manufacturing company, you of course have to work with the added value hill, so-called traditional operations, value-added operations. But when you are circular manufacturer, you also have to take and initiate retained value hill operations, where you can see the value retaining practices. So the one that can lead you from the bottom to the up of the second value hill, so to say, so-called preparation for direct reuse or refreshing, repairing, reconditioning, refurbish, and finally remanufacturing are the ones that you as manufacturer have to initiate. And for me as a researcher, it doesn't matter how do you call those activities. It's probably a fact that when you do a proper remanufacture, you do have to invest more resources, because this is the process where you definitely have to disassemble the product, check the state, quality, functionality, aesthetics as well, in some cases, of the spare parts of the core of the product. Then you have to repair it, or you have to reassemble with the new spare parts, and then you test the product every time and you provide it again. So of course you do invest more resources, which is I can agree with many researchers around me. However, I would say that the only way to ride the retain value hill longest and highest is only with remanufacturing, because only with this strategy you can really prolong the life of the product the most. So I was really, I can say that the value hill by a business model tool was the inspiration for me and helped me to really to define the use phases for the product in this case. So as I say, for me as a researcher, whether manufacturing company perform reconditioning, refurbishing, or remanufacturing is not a big deal. I'm really glad that they actually take their roles in retain value hill activities. What is maybe important is to see how mature you are, how is your condition, what is your state today in providing the value retaining operations, and what is the difficulties, what are the challenges the company experience, but also what are the strengths that you can embrace even more. For this reason, or I would say in parallel to this framework, I was for a long time interested in assessing their remanufacturing maturity at the companies who wants to initiate remanufacturing in order to help them to take these activities. It's really difficult for many manufacturers to know how to initiate new activity as remanufacturing it is. It's really different situation. You cannot compare it so easily across different products or industries. Therefore, there was a need to develop a tool that help industries assess the current condition in a more holistic way. But also this tool would be helpful for them to see how good are they compared to other industries. So therefore, in order to answer the question, how mature are you in remanufacturing? I have studied the European remanufacturing landscape for a while ago, and you can see that the B2B, business to business industries are dominant. Then I looked what is common for industries that are successful in remanufacturing. And then I outlined several preconditions that I work up to today. So when you initiate remanufacturing on new product, You have to assure that the technological development of your product is rather stable so that you don't need to redevelop technology every year, or it's not planned for a future. Another problem or another issue that you have to assure that you have really high after-use value of the product, meaning that first user returns the product and there is still a lot left, so that you can have a good, highly qualitative core, which we call used and returned product and its part, available for the remanufacturing. Without the high after-use value of the core, you cannot really be successful. It will be really expensive. In the case we have a lot of components, it's important that it's easy, smoothly, and cheaply to replace components. Maybe modularity issues have to be focused and solved. And aftermarket demand. Without the demand by the customer, you have really low chances to survive in the remanufacturing industry. It's driven by the same logic. It has to be asked. So this became as a part of the Remometer analytical decision support framework that I developed for manufacturers in 4 steps. So the first step is this precondition that just mentioned. I also would mainly mention that apart from these 4 working with companies, I see that the biggest success is with the companies that are sustainable already today in the economic, that they don't solve the problems by engaging in a new business with remanufacturing. So it's really important that you have a good support from the main businesses. The second step of Remometer is the remanufacturing readiness level, the one that I'm actually presenting today and the one that I describe to details in the paper. And I'm going to explain even more right now. I also mentioned that in Linköping University, we work until the end with companies. When we do the first and second step, we always support with the social, but also economic and environment assessment for companies to make the next step and to scale up their process into remanufacturing. So you can read more about the remanufacturing readiness level in the paper that was published last year in Resources Conservation and Recycling. Thank you for that. I can say that it is now available as a workshop, 3 to 4 hours with companies' representatives, and additionally 1 hour validation and result dissemination. So how does it work? Typically, I work in the program, but now I can show that it's a table with 17 different factors that we discuss with all companies' representatives. All the factors are spread into 5 areas, and you can see they are pretty one that focus on product development, business model, production, supply chain, and end of use. So when we discuss with the company's representatives, each of the 70 factors would have a clear description. For example, when we discuss sustainability, we already in the initial phase assess whether the product is originally suitable and economic, social, and environmental sustainable, whether the design for the product or service for multiple use is applied. For design for well-retaining processes, we discuss if the replaceability, repairability of critical components are already applied. And for each of the 17 factors, I just shortly listed the small or short descriptions. However, in the tool, which is also added in the appendix of the paper, you can see that the 17 factors would have 4 descriptions for each score, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each score means each score has the description of the scenario that describes the level of maturity for each of 7 factors. So it doesn't sound so complicated when you work. However, I can say that it takes you a while to read all the description scenarios and to choose the one that suits best the company. So best your condition regarding sustainability, design. Also for business model, we see and check whether the products are today offered through one or several circular business models by the company. We always ask where the company knows the demand for remanufacturing products. Do they have any understanding if it's interested for customers to acquire? We also look whether their current customers are loyal. Do they trust the brand? And the profit. Do you get any profit margin for today by selling or providing remanufacturing products? And in this assessment, it's not that we estimate and calculate, but we discuss. The point here is to get the consensus of the company's representatives that participate in the workshop on each of the 17 factors to score them according to 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is possible to select the 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5. So if you find yourself in between of 2 scenarios, and this is in order to find the better match for the company. So if I continue in the production area, we focus on the workforce, and this is the question that addressed the availability of qualified workforce to realize remanufacturing. Do you have enough skills, and do you have enough knowledge on remanufacturing operations? Facilities would definitely demand you to think where to locate geographically, centralized or decentralized, and technology. Do you need advanced technology, or can you utilize the one from the manufacturing, or most often maintenance, repair shops? Supply chain gives you a good headache when you have to think who are your value chain colleagues. How good are your relations to those? Which is your position? Can you control? Can you decide? Take back scenarios or take back solutions requires you to think not only forward but return logistics, how to plan, how to collect the used products aimed for remanufacturing. And then the core and spare parts, this is mostly, do you have access to used products, to your products, and can you get spare parts for remanufacturing? End of use is definitely very linked to remanufacturing itself. And you have questions regarding the knowledge on remanufacturing, product value remaining. Do you have understanding? Is it a lot left? And how, for example, is the price on the second-hand market today? Where the retention is a broader spectrum of activities which you can choose depending on the incoming core quality and demanded core quality. And then resources, as I mentioned, it's very important to see that there are enough resources and interest from the company to initiate and engage in remanufacturing. So when you have a summary and you have the average of the score per each 17 factors, you get your score in remanufacturing readiness level. And in the example of the spider diagram, I show the a result of 4 assessments at case companies that range with the scores between 2.1 and 3.5, identifying that the one that have closer to score 2 are less mature in remanufacturing, and the score 3 and above is, of course, more mature and advanced. However, I would say that the point here is not to get the high score, but to have a good consensus with the company representatives on each factor, and to see which areas you have advantage in order to improve your remanufacturing activities, where you have problems and where you have to focus and invest more resources, and also to understand what is your common understanding. Do you know a lot about your customers, for example? I received only positive feedback from the companies telling that this is a good holistic assessment for their current situation, and it's pretty much what I would say a practical contribution that I explained in the paper. Working with the case companies, with the industries, and testing and assessing those and trying to help improve, I was able to generalize the knowledge and the experience into the 4-level of remanufacturing maturity framework, which I think can be useful for many researchers. And I see my colleagues already find good use of those. For example, when shifting from linear to circular manufacturing, it's good to explain that the absent is the first level where there is no or lacking remanufacturing in the original manufacturing company. And it is related and I would say linked to the remanufacturing readiness 1 in the practical tool that I explained today, right now. The second step, when you become more mature in remanufacturing, it's become when you try to provide remanufacturing to some additional products or for some special sector for specific customers, and which we call fragmented. It's premature. That means that you tried, but you don't do it in any way. It's just an ad hoc. The more common picture of remanufacturing that we see today is embedded, which means that you are pretty much mature in providing remanufacturing. The OEM has an established strong connection and try to establish new ones. However, in order to improve your remanufacturing, we see that there is a need to make remanufacturing a core of your business when you do circular manufacturing. As I mentioned before, it cannot be the side activity. It has to be a core activity, a core business strategy. We call it systemic, and it's of course not so many companies who can be proud of saying that they are doing world-class remanufacturing today, but there is a need for improvement that we emphasize in the paper. I will just finalize my presentation today by summing up what we find out, that today we have a bit of lack of, I would say, research on product design for repairability on the component and subcomponent level, as well as the company's internal policies, how to become circular in respect with the context of remanufacturing. And becoming circular through remanufacturing implies that you do have to work with the circular business models. This is the biggest issue with the combination with remanufacturing today. We also see a need for more research and connections with the customers and end users, and take-back scenarios. So take-backs establishment for taking used products back is a bit of it requires more attention, we would see, since the whole remanufacturing industry is developing. For me, I would say that I still have more interest in working with remanufacturing. For example, my next paper that I'm finalizing is on customers' responsibilities within circular economy, where we see that the producer have a greater responsibilities, but the customers do fail, I would say. And for many of you who has interest in remanufacturing and want maybe to write together, I have an idea to write a conceptual paper on what is and what is not remanufacturing. So you are very welcome to contact me for common interest, or if you have questions in the tools and methods framework that I presented today. Here is my contact information. And once again, I had a really great pleasure to be today with you and very welcome your question. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for such an interesting presentation, Jelena. I will just note to our audience that the the floor is open for questions if you would like to ask any. But while you think about your questions, if you have any, I have some questions also for Jelena. Um, so, Jelena, in the spirit of keeping these webinars very much a full spectrum for each webinar from fundamentals all the way through to an advanced application of the research. I wondered if maybe a good starting point for the question time, because I also, for example, myself, I'm more of a material scientist engineer rather than, so I'm not really in the same area as you. So you had this full list of the R's, and there are many. I think I counted 14 that you wrote there. And of course, everybody knows the reuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, but then the others, remine, remanufacture, all of these maybe are not so clear. So perhaps you'd like to start by just giving an overview of like, what is remanufacturing actually?
Yes, of course, I probably should have started from the definition itself. I tried to improvise in the middle probably of my presentation. So
No, no, we have time now, so no
yes,
problem.
perfect. So remanufacturing is a very big domain, I would say now. I can say that traditionally it was known as a set of operations or activities performed into the industrial settings. So not as a repair shop that you can see when you have your car broken and you bring it for repair and then you collect your car back. However, this is an big scale, I would say, or less big depending on, but it's industrial activities of restoring the used product and its components to its original functionality and aesthetics and to the same or even better uh, value or quality, we could say. So quality for me is just a part of the value. That's why when I say value, it means quality, functionality, and aesthetics. So for me, remanufacturing now became maybe a solution or a way for many manufacturers to become circular. So I would say that remanufacturing is not longer an activity, but it's a strategy,
I
a
see.
strategic way to work with resources and products. And therefore, I mentioned that you really have to bring it very close to your core business. You have to plan remanufacturing and you have design product for remanufacturing in order to have it very successful at the end. It's not the case today. Therefore, many of my colleagues or industries that we work, they don't go beyond level score 3, unfortunately.
Okay. And you actually highlighted in your presentation a little bit about this ambiguity in some of these R definitions and how companies struggle with these range of definitions. And actually, we've also had in the past Julian Kircher on the program who was talking about this conceptual ambiguity in what circular economy actually is, what these R's actually are. Also, Joseph Sarkis also was on the program and mentioned that a lot of people, when they hear the word circular economy and sustainability, they only associate this with recycling. So I wonder if you've just talked a little bit about remanufacturing and what it is. what is the key point that makes remanufacturing different from, say, repair or refurbish, or what sets it apart
Mm,
as one of the R's?
mm. Well, I think that many researchers understand that there is a big difference between recycling and remanufacturing. I think I don't need to mention that, probably,
No,
yes?
no, no,
No.
no, not that.
However, yes, it's not often the case because I work in the transdisciplinary teams, and my colleagues who work with marketing, they were calling my projects and my ideas recycling for a while. We are changing that. It's a long journey even between my colleagues. But in fact, recycling is where you, of course, go back to material, right? Manufacturing is where you are going back to the components, subcomponents, or the whole product, depending on. So in case of refurbish, there is a trick. It's very close to remanufacturing. However, we don't see that refurbish can bring the product to the same or higher product value as originally. So that is just a small difference. I can also say that refurbish is so close to remanufacturing that many companies that I work, they actually do mostly refurbish and only little remanufacturing. For me, refurbish and remanufacturing is not something contradicting. It's just a matter of suitability for product and business and, of course, customers.
Mhm.
However, repair is, of course, different. For me, repair is when something is broken and you have to bring it as your phone to the repair shop, and then your phone is repaired, you pay for it, and then you collect your phone back. It's always you who owns the product. When it comes to remanufacturing, you return the product and you obtain or buy another one. It's not your, you don't get your product back.
Makes sense.
It's very big difference.
So, you were talking a little bit about the complexity of these R structures and how you actually find it good that they are being simplified a little bit, being
Yes.
reduced. Yes. So maybe I would ask you, why have you chosen remanufacturing as being one of the more important Rs? Why is it important compared to the others? And if some of these R's need to stay and some of these R's need to go, which ones should stay and which ones should go and why?
Yes, I think I made some research on the R's, and of course, I will not criticize too much. I think it's also the development, maturity of research, and the whole research team or teams of researchers, they have evolved, and their explanation and their approach to R's has changed in a while. Uh, I think I mostly like this waste hierarchy, reduce, reuse, and recycle. And of course, remanufacturing for manufacturing industries is under the reuse sphere. Reduce is what I say many industries already work. You don't really need to be circular in order to implement reduce. And my companies, they are well aware that reduce resources, it pays off. You have to reduce pollution. It's all kind of, reduce is already pretty strong. Recycle is something that we are obliged to do, at least in Scandinavia. And in Sweden, at least, we have a big culture, both society but also government. It's really controlled. However, reuse is sort of unclear for many companies. Is it secondhand? No, it's not only secondhand. It's not only direct resale. No. Is it repair? Is repair reuse? It can be used in order to provide reuse. The same is with remanufacturing. Remanufacturing strategy can be used in order to enable secondary or N reuse. So for me, reuse is something that is umbrella term for strategies, but I would not call them reuse. I call them value retention processes, because for me, reuse is actually when the product is used, providing reuse by preparing or repairing or reconditioning, refurbishing. So yes, these three ones, the initial Japanese ones, is I think pretty strong.
Okay. And I was wondering, maybe I missed something, but I think maybe you might not have had time to go into it. So maybe you'd like to go into it now. What was your framework based on? So you built this framework with these different factors. How did you build this? Was this empirically done? Was it interview based? Was it looking at company structures? Was it what did you do?
Yes, it was a journey, I would say. It was evolution. 2015, I identified that there is a need. And I think the first I knew is that there is a need for this systemic understanding of changes. So we looked on the KPIs, which is already today assessed in the companies. We looked from the lean perspective, the way of how to work with industries, in which way you can have this consensus on 4 levels, for example, of maturity. I really relied on the rapid plant assessment or similar tools that are so simple to use that you don't need 2 months of the paid or highly paid experts. You can do it on your own. Then we have tried. I have published a conference paper. I presented it. I worked with my internal colleagues, experts, and it was both interviews, but it was mostly by literature review to sort it out, to group it. And then finally, for the final version, as it's published today, I relied on the British Circular Economy Standards. I found it mostly referred to, mostly used, and I hope it would work for a while. Um, and we will see if that will stay like that, because I think the tools that are practiced, they can be improved, and this is my purpose.
Very nice. I'm going to switch to a couple of audience questions before coming back to a couple of my own. From Eric Sundin, thanks for for a very nice presentation. Do the B2B remanufacturing companies score a higher RRL than the B2C remanufacturing companies?
Well, thank you very much. I think Erik is my colleague, if I hear the right. So of course, B2B have more experience working with remanufacturing. As I showed before, in this European landscape, it mostly B2B that actually runs successful. We only start today working with B2C companies, and suddenly they have to do a lot, actually. They're lagging behind. Um, right now, the tool that I practiced mostly focused on the product itself. And I would say that I cannot see any pattern right now. I didn't work with so many numbers of companies to claim that somebody is better or worse. I think it still is too immature, or I would say that you would need to maybe have more colleagues to discuss and to answer this question. So it's not easy answer. I cannot tell very clear.
The next question from Abdullah Kaya. Thank you for the interesting presentation. I was curious if RRL can assist on screening ideas for its just for maturity of the company. Also, how can we connect, measure environmental, economic, and social aspects?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. It was the tool, well, when we developed the idea of there is a need to assess, of course, we looked on the KPIs and what is companies measuring today. However, it didn't really help too much. Um, Instead, we were looking on what are these areas, and the business model, production, supply chain, they are well-known different tools to assess each category or each area by itself. Um, I, I would probably recommend you using their original tools if you don't really study remanufacturing, you probably go to the origin. You can also look in my reference list. Whether it is about remanufacturing and the journey to remanufacturing, yes, of course, you can absolutely use it. How to connect and to include maybe this triple bottom line, the assessment of social, environmental, and economic. It's not so easy because, as I say, we at Linköping University, we work through the whole journey. We assess the product suitability, the prerequisites. We run the remanufacturing readiness level. It's very short. I would say it requires just 1 day. Go into your company, run. Then I would need maybe at least 1 month to assess, depending on my time. And then I go back. We have a video when I validate results, and I share the findings with you, and then we plan. However, in many cases, we provide the life cycle costing, life cycle assessment for industries, because we have seen that companies dare to adopt remanufacturing as they see that it's profitable from the economic perspective, but also good for the environment. It's not possible to combine it in 4 hours. It's not needed actually, because they have different purposes.
Thank you. I just want to note that I've seen that Talib has raised their hand. Sometimes people do that accidentally, so I'm going to put the next question to Jelena from the chat. If Talib still has their hand up when she's finished answering that, then I will activate the microphone for them. So they have a moment to put the hand down if they don't actually want to ask a question. The next question is from Utuman Mabarizi. Utuman Mabarizi. Thank you, Professor Jelena, for the insightful presentation. Could you please clarify the difference between maximum product use and longest product life?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. So I refer to maximum product use is the way how one customer or one product is used, the intensity, and the product life is very correlated to the product use, of course, because then you are designing the product for being more robust or have possibility to be upgraded or remanufacturing, so the whole life will be extended. So these are very common and very close concepts in themselves, and they support each other. So the longer the product life, the more uses it can also facilitate the product use.
So Talib, you still have your hand up, so I will activate your microphone so you can ask your question.
Hello, Michal. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I do not know why the camera is not on. I would love to, but I think there's no camera option there. So sorry for that. Thank you, Michal. Just one quick compliment, Michal. You moderate sessions so beautifully. I wish I could do it sometime in my life. Beautiful. Done.
Thank you.
And Jelena, thank you very much for this presentation. I have mechanical engineering background, so I can try to relate a little bit in a couple of contexts. One is I have been working in the buildings or built environment sector for the last few years. In there, refurbishment and maintenance are the two terms used. Maintenance is when you bring the building back to its original design level, design performance, or whatever. Whereas refurbishment means you bring it back not just to the same, but rather above and beyond the original designed level of performance or appearance or whatever. So that's how it works in the buildings sector. But it looks like in the manufacturing, it is not like that. Number one. Number two, reuse and recycling are two phrases used in the waste management industry. Reuse is, for example, I got a bottle of milk. I finished milk. And then I'm using the same bottle again for some other content. I know I put some oil in there or some ointment. So I'm reusing it. But recycling is it will go through the process of it will not be bottle anymore. It will be melted into some material, and another glass bottle is made out of it, or something else is made out of it. So it goes under physical, chemical, mechanical, chemical changes. Then it is called recycling. Otherwise, it is called reuse. I noticed that in your framework, these two or these four terminologies appear to be having different domain in terms of its implications and meanings. Am I correct to understand that?
Yes, I think that it's not the first time I hear that in the building industry it's a bit of different. I would not. It's on the edge of my capabilities to answer for
Okay,
building
that's fine.
industries. But what I see that manufacturing industries and remanufacturing definitions for or researchers that work within remanufacturing, they use pretty much the same definition that I refer to. And the ones that I use are also not developed recently, but from the 90s and the beginning of the 2000. So I didn't try to check the suitability or how these definitions are used in different industries, but the ones that valid, I would say, today for manufacturers.
Okay.
But it's interesting to see that this only referring to ours as a strategy doesn't really orient or have a good generalizability among industries themselves.
Michelle, can I ask one more, or should I wait for others?
No, you may speak, of course.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. Other is Jelena, there is another limitation. I call it linguistics. For example, we say green technology or green energy or something. Forgive me if I'm quoting it wrongly. In Taiwan language, the word green has more than one colors, or so it is lost in translation when we go for translation. So maybe all these terminologies that we have seen here today in your this beautiful framework, maybe if it is in your Lithuanian language or any other language, maybe it has a better connotations associated with it as opposed to when it is translated into English. What would you say to that? And one thing more, if I could say, is obsolescence. If you have come across that phrase in English, it means not obsolete. It means the process of becoming obsolete. So when we do remanufacturing in these 17 different categories, we are basically fighting against obsolescence, against it becoming obsolete. We are giving it a longer life. That's how I'm seeing it. And in other words, it is making it more sustainable. So those two questions. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Jelena.
Yes, thank you for your discussion. Very interesting to hear your also focus or your perspective. Yes. So coming to the terminology, I think this is never-ending story. You have so much research domains. Researchers, of course, have different nationalities or different languages. I would not say that it's better than in English. I didn't find better definitions in Swedish or Lithuanian languages or even Russian than in English. It's still much better explained, and the terminology exists for a while. They are more stable. In maybe in other languages, the definitions sometimes have two for the same as we have in English. Yes, since they may be developed by different groups or researchers. So I still think that in English we have a bit better agreement on what we call what.
Right.
And about the obsolescence and becoming or fighting against, I think this is very strong when you work with remanufacturing, but remanufacturing is just one piece of circularity or circular manufacturing. So I would say that if you definitely work with the holistic on the circular manufacturing. You definitely address this as a one issue. And remanufacturing is one element of circularity, which of course can help companies to beat or to work with the product obsolescence.
Okay, no, that's good. Thank you so very much. Well answered.
Thank you.
Did you have any further questions, Talib? Or
I have, but the time is up, so I don't want to delay you guys.
okay, then maybe you can. I think Jelena put her email address anyway, so maybe
Yes, she has. She has.
you might want to ask her later. Thank you
Cool,
so
cool.
much for your questions, Talib.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Thank
Thank you.
We actually we have quite a lot of questions today. Okay, so I've noticed that Utaman Mebiziri has also raised their hand. So again, I will give you the chance to put that down if you don't want to talk. We're going to try to do quick answers now, Jelena, because we
Yes.
are running out of time. So we have a question from Blarina Colgini. Thank you for the webinar and presentation. Very interesting. Castal are using waste materials from Volvo to produce carpets, rugs. Which term is more appropriate in this case, recycling or remanufacturing? Thank you.
It's repurposing, I would say. If you change the application of the product, the function is different than original one, then we don't consider this as remanufacturing. However, it could be upgraded, downgraded, and then it's repurposing. So I think it's, at least for me, sounds more like that.
Very nice. Okay, so Utaman, I will now unmute your microphone. If you could please keep your question reasonably short because we don't have a lot of time.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Jelena. Directed to the question, just like the previous question, regarding for example, I speak in the background of mechanical engineering. If you have a tool and it has worn out, in the process of repairing it because it has worn out, like using the digital technologies like additive manufacturing, when you're trying to put back the levels to order, maybe direct energy deposition method, is that remanufacturing or it's another term that you can use for that? I don't know whether my question is clear.
Yes, I would say that additive manufacturing is one of the solution or the technology that can embrace support remanufacturing. Since if the property or the functionality is restored by this methodology, by this method, it can be a part of remanufacturing. I think you have to see it in the context that remanufacturing process have different steps. It's from the product disassemble or inspection, disassembly, cleaning. Then you have repair or returning to the initial state, functionality, aesthetics, and so on. And I think in this step, when you are bringing product to its initial state, it can be used of this additive manufacturing or different advanced technologies. And then you also have to assemble the product back and then check the quality. So this whole process is called remanufacturing process, not only one single element of it.
Okay, my pleasure. Thanks for that clarification. Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Utaman. Okay, so the final point, Jelena, we do always like to put some vision into this in terms of so if you could just very briefly, very concisely, maybe sort of bullet points or small sentences, what's stuck at the moment in terms of the research, in terms of industry? What are the core challenges and what needs to happen?
I think when we are talking about the research, we are very advanced today. For example, Linköping University, we work within area of remanufacturing more than 25 years. Myself, I work more than 10 years. I has been lucky to study in a quiet pace. There was no competition 5-10 years ago. However, today we see the growing interest from different disciplines. So I think that we are lucky today that we have so much effect or interest. I think that this will be solved pretty quickly. Then from the practitioners, I think it's also happening pretty fast right now. Whether I have made this European landscape assessment or analysis that mostly B2B companies were doing remanufacturing, I see that many OEM mention, at least in their webpage and their definitions, how sustainable they are. They mention the terminology of remanufacturing, which is a kind of giving you an indication that they want to work. You don't know how bad or good they are, but they try to become remanufacturing or refurbishing or providing us non-new but reused products after repair or reconditioning. So they are towards. I think we might have still need some more time in order this to become a norm. For example, consumers. I think this is not the first time we hear that. We have projects that we work, but it's not possible, I think, just by making projects successful to sort of share this knowledge to end users. I think it's a bit of time that will show us that this is the right direction. We don't have any issues, I would say, within research right now. I think we are pretty happy.
That's good. Excellent. Okay. That brings us to the end of the program for today. Thank you so much, Jelena, for your presentation. And I think you've seen from our wonderful audience that certainly there is interest in your topic, and the research engagement, research impact is high. So thank you so much. I'm going to now share my screen again to deliver the closing remarks. Please feel very free to join us again next Thursday. This is as an exception. Normally it's every second Thursday. Next Thursday, we're joined by Melissa Malika from the Sapienza University of Rome in Italy. She will be talking to us on the topic of to cooperate or not to cooperate, strategic analysis of industrial symbiosis. That's Thursday, July 24th, 2025, next Thursday. Thank you again so much, Jelena, for your presentation, and thank you to everybody for coming. And I will see some of you maybe next week.